moving. You are being detained. Let go of me. I haven't done anything wrong.
Cop arrests black judge for stolen vehicle. Nearly faints seeing her in judge's robes the next day. He had served on the police force for nearly 10 years and prided himself on being thorough, responsible, and careful in his duties. Yet, he also carried a sense of pride that sometimes made him jump to conclusions a little too quickly. He believed strongly in following the law, but sometimes that strong belief clouded his judgment. That morning, as he drove through a busy neighborhood known for its shopping centers and office buildings, a black SUV caught his attention. It was parked slightly oddly, close to the sidewalk, and it seemed out of place among the other vehicles neatly aligned in the lot. Officer Daniels slowed his patrol car and observed the vehicle carefully. Something about it seemed off, although he couldn't immediately place what it was. His instincts told him to investigate further. He pulled over and stepped out of his car, letting the radio chatter continue in the background. The city's sounds were familiar to him: footsteps, chatter from nearby cafes, distant construction, and the faint hum of cars driving by. He approached the black SUV with a calm but alert demeanor. From a distance, the driver appeared to be a woman in her mid-40s, sitting quietly, her hands resting on the steering wheel. She looked composed and confident, as if she had been waiting for someone. Officer Daniels noticed her calmness immediately. He had expected some nervous behavior, but instead she seemed unbothered by his presence. That in itself made him more suspicious. Officer Daniels walked to the driver's side window and tapped lightly. The window rolled down, revealing a woman with short, neatly styled hair, wearing a plain blouse and glasses. Her eyes were calm, yet intelligent and strong. "Good morning, ma'am," Officer Daniels said politely but firmly. "I need to ask you a few questions about this vehicle." According to the records, the SUV had been reported as stolen. A sense of urgency took over him. He knew he had to act. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle," Officer Daniels said, his voice steady but commanding. "I have reason to believe this vehicle may have been stolen. I have all the proper documentation. There must be some mistake." "Ma'am, I need you to cooperate with me," he said firmly. "We'll sort this out at the station." Together, they guided her to the patrol car. As they drove to the station, Officer Daniels couldn't help but glance at her in the rearview mirror. Her expression had not changed. She was quiet, composed, and dignified, as if she had faced difficult situations before and handled them without fear. He thought briefly about how unusual it was for someone to remain so calm while being arrested. Most people would be panicking, crying, or shouting, but she was none of those things. That made him more suspicious. At the station, the usual routine began. The woman was asked to provide her identification again, and her information was entered into the system. Officer Daniels reviewed the stolen vehicle report carefully, comparing the details with her documentation. Everything pointed to the fact that she owned the SUV. His mind raced, but he still clung to the idea that the system could not be wrong. Yet, there was something about her presence that made him hesitate. She did not fit the profile of someone likely to steal a vehicle. While the officers processed the paperwork, the woman remained patient and respectful. She answered questions politely, never raising her voice or showing anger. Other officers passing by noticed her composure and whispered among themselves, commenting on her calm and professional demeanor. A few even suggested she might be someone important, but Officer Daniels brushed it off. He had to remain focused on his job, on following procedure, and on the law. Outside the processing room, a small crowd had begun to gather. A witness had recorded a short video of the arrest on their phone, capturing the moment when Officer Daniels asked the woman to step out of the car. The video showed her calm and composed demeanor, contrasting sharply with the intensity of the arrest. Within hours, it began circulating online. People commented about the unusual nature of the arrest, some expressing support for the officer, others questioning whether assumptions had been made too quickly. Inside the station, Officer Daniels could feel the tension building. His colleagues were whispering, the phone calls were coming in, and the system was taking longer than usual to verify the details. He felt a growing sense of unease. Something did not feel right, but he could not yet put his finger on it. He had acted according to the information available to him, but the calmness and dignity of the woman kept nagging at him. Finally, after hours of verification and repeated cross-checks, the shocking truth emerged. The woman he had arrested was not just a random civilian. She was Judge Carla Thompson, a respected and accomplished member of the city's judiciary. The realization hit Officer Daniels like a punch to the stomach. His mind could not immediately process the information. All the assumptions he had made, all the confidence in his judgment, suddenly seemed foolish. He had arrested a judge, a black judge, someone who held authority and respect in the very legal system he served. For a moment, Officer Daniels simply stared. He felt a mixture of disbelief, embarrassment, and panic. How could he have made such a mistake? The paperwork had been wrong, the stolen vehicle report had been inaccurate, and he had jumped to conclusions without verifying every detail. His heart raced, and he felt a wave of shame wash over him. He had acted with the best intentions, but the consequences of that action were profound. Judge Thompson, for her part, remained calm. Even after hours of confusion, she had maintained her dignity and composure. She spoke gently to the officers, explaining the clerical error and showing her identification once again. Her voice was calm but firm, leaving no room for argument. She did not raise her voice or express anger, though the situation could have justified it. Her professionalism and grace left a deep impression on everyone present. Officer Daniels realized he had learned a harsh but important lesson. The incident was a reminder that assumptions could be dangerous, that appearances could be misleading, and that every individual deserved respect and careful consideration, regardless of circumstances. It was a moment of humility, one that would remain with him for the rest of his career. As Judge Thompson was released, Officer Daniels watched her leave the station. She walked with quiet confidence, her head held high, completely composed despite the ordeal she had just experienced. Passers-by outside the station whispered and stared, some recognizing her from her role in the community, others simply struck by the unusual nature of the situation. The city was alive with curiosity and chatter, and the story was already beginning to spread. That day, Officer Daniels went home feeling a mixture of relief and reflection. Relief that no lasting harm had come to Judge Thompson, and reflection on how easily mistakes could happen when assumptions replaced careful consideration. The arrest, though based on inaccurate information, would later spark conversations about policing, verification, and the importance of humility in positions of authority. It was a day that began like any other, with routine patrols and familiar city sounds, but it ended with a lesson that Officer Daniels would never forget. Mistakes, he realized, were part of being human, but how one responded to them and learned from them defined character. And in that lesson, there was a profound sense of growth and understanding, one that would shape his actions and decisions for years to come. The morning after the arrest, the city seemed to hum with its usual energy. People walked briskly along the sidewalks, the shops opened their doors, and the hum of traffic filled the air. Yet, inside the police station, the atmosphere was different. The memory of the previous day's events lingered in every officer's mind. For Officer Daniels, it was impossible to shake the incident from his thoughts. He kept replaying the moment he had realized the woman in handcuffs was Judge Carla Thompson. The realization had struck him with a mix of shock, embarrassment, and disbelief. Officer Daniels arrived at the station early, hoping to review the reports and clarify every detail of the arrest. He wanted to ensure that nothing had been overlooked and that Judge Thompson's reputation remained intact after the clerical mistake. He knew the public was already talking about the arrest, and the video that a bystander had taken was beginning to circulate online. It was being shared on social media, accompanied by comments questioning what had happened. Some people expressed sympathy for the judge, while others criticized the officer for acting too quickly. The attention, though mild at first, was beginning to grow. Inside the station, officers whispered quietly among themselves. Most of them respected Officer Daniels and his years of service, but they also knew that mistakes could be serious, especially when they involved someone as important as a judge. Officer Daniels felt the weight of their glances and quiet discussions. He had been trained to focus on facts and evidence, yet this experience had shown him how easily assumptions could mislead even the most experienced officer. He decided to speak with the clerical department to understand exactly how the mistake had happened. Sitting at a desk, he carefully reviewed the report of the stolen vehicle. The system had flagged Judge Thompson's SUV as stolen due to a clerical error. Someone had entered the license plate into the database incorrectly, marking it as missing. Officer Daniels could feel his face growing warm with embarrassment. He had relied on the system, as any officer would, and the error had led to an unnecessary arrest. While he was reviewing the documents, another officer approached him quietly. "Daniels," he said softly, "did you realize who the woman was?" "Judge Thompson is understanding, but the public may have questions. We need to make sure everything is corrected, and we need to learn from this." He took a deep breath and decided to contact Judge Thompson personally to apologize. After careful thought, he wrote a letter expressing his sincere regret for the misunderstanding and his hope that the incident would not affect her work or her view of the police department. He also requested a meeting to offer a direct apology, hoping she would accept. Meanwhile, Judge Thompson was beginning her day at the courthouse. She arrived early, dressed in her judicial robes, carrying the same calm and confident demeanor that had impressed Officer Daniels the day before. She moved through the halls with quiet authority, greeting colleagues and staff politely, as always. The incident at the police station was already being discussed in hushed tones among the courthouse staff. People were curious about how it had happened and what her response would be. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, Judge Thompson approached the day with grace. She understood that mistakes could happen, and she believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt. She also recognized the importance of maintaining her composure, especially in the public eye. Her focus remained on her responsibilities, though she was aware that the arrest would likely become a story in the local news. By mid-morning, Officer Daniels received a call from the Internal Affairs Department. They wanted to review the incident formally and gather details for the official report. He knew this was standard procedure, but he felt a deep sense of responsibility. He explained every step of the arrest, detailing the initial suspicion, the verification process, and the discovery of Judge Thompson's identity. He spoke honestly, admitting his assumptions and the reliance on the inaccurate database. The internal affairs officers listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions. They wanted to ensure that the process was transparent and that all steps had been properly documented. Officer Daniels realized that the incident, while embarrassing, could become an important learning opportunity for the entire department. The officials assured him that while the mistake was serious, his honesty and willingness to cooperate would be recognized. As the day continued, the story began to gain attention online. The video of Judge Thompson's arrest, though short, had captured the public's imagination. People were discussing the incident on social media, debating the role of policing, the importance of accurate records, and the potential for bias in law enforcement. Many expressed sympathy for Judge Thompson, praising her calm and professional response. Others focused on Officer Daniels, some criticizing him, others defending his actions, noting that he had acted on the information available to him at the time. Officer Daniels followed the online discussion closely, feeling a mixture of anxiety and reflection. He knew that public opinion could be harsh, and he wanted to ensure that the truth was represented accurately. He also recognized the opportunity for the department to improve its systems and training to prevent such mistakes in the future. The experience had highlighted the importance of verification, patience, and careful judgment in every interaction. Back at the courthouse, Judge Thompson had a meeting with her colleagues. They discussed the incident in a professional manner, emphasizing the need to stay focused on their work while acknowledging the unusual circumstances of the arrest. Judge Thompson shared her perspective, explaining that she had chosen to remain calm and composed during the arrest, knowing that losing her temper would not have helped the situation. Her colleagues admired her professionalism and the way she had handled an unexpected and challenging experience. Later that afternoon, Officer Daniels received a call from Judge Thompson's office. She had read his letter and agreed to meet him in person. He felt a mixture of relief and nervousness as he prepared for the meeting. He knew that facing her directly would require humility, honesty, and a genuine apology. He also knew that this meeting could help repair trust and demonstrate that he had learned from the experience. When Officer Daniels arrived at the courthouse, Judge Thompson greeted him politely. Her calm demeanor immediately put him at ease, though he still felt a deep sense of embarrassment for what had happened. He apologized sincerely, explaining the circumstances of the arrest, the clerical error, and his reliance on the database. He expressed his regret for any inconvenience or distress caused. Judge Thompson listened attentively, nodding as he spoke. "Officer Daniels," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "I understand that mistakes happen. What matters is how we respond and what we learn. I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to take responsibility. That is the first step toward making things right." He realized that accountability, humility, and respect could transform even an embarrassing or challenging situation into a valuable lesson. Judge Thompson's response reinforced the importance of empathy, patience, and professionalism in every aspect of life, especially in positions of authority. By the end of the day, the police department had begun reviewing its procedures for verifying stolen vehicles and other sensitive information. Training programs were updated to include discussions on assumptions, bias, and careful verification. Officer Daniels participated actively in these sessions, sharing his experience and emphasizing the lessons he had learned. His colleagues respected his openness and his commitment to improvement. Meanwhile, Judge Thompson returned to her judicial duties with renewed focus. She continued to carry herself with dignity, serving the community and mentoring young lawyers. Her experience with the arrest became a story she shared occasionally, highlighting the importance of resilience, professionalism, and understanding in the face of unexpected challenges. The city, meanwhile, continued to buzz with conversations about the incident. It became an example of how assumptions and mistakes could happen, even in the most professional environments, and how accountability, learning, and respect could turn a potentially negative event into a positive lesson for the community. For Officer Daniels, the experience remained a powerful reminder of the responsibilities that came with his role. He understood that policing was not just about enforcing the law, but also about understanding people, verifying information carefully, and acting with integrity at every step. The incident would remain with him as a defining moment in his career, shaping his actions and decisions for years to come. For Judge Thompson, the experience was a reminder of the strength that comes from calmness, dignity, and patience. She had faced an unusual challenge with grace and had used it to reinforce the values of fairness, professionalism, and resilience that defined her career. And so, what began as a routine morning patrol ended as a day of reflection, learning, and growth, for both the officer and the judge. The incident would continue to spark conversations about justice, accountability, and understanding in the city, reminding everyone that mistakes are opportunities for learning, and that respect, patience, and professionalism can transform difficult situations into lessons of lasting value. The days after the arrest continued to be unusual for both Officer Daniels and Judge Carla Thompson. The city streets seemed the same, yet the incident had sparked conversations everywhere, from coffee shops to office halls, and especially online. The video of the arrest had gained more attention than anyone expected. People were talking about it on social media, sharing their opinions and analyzing every detail. Many were surprised that a respected judge had been arrested mistakenly, and some expressed concern about the systems that allowed such an error to happen. For Officer Daniels, the experience was a mix of reflection, anxiety, and personal growth. Every time he logged onto the department's internal communications or checked the news, he saw comments about the arrest. Some praised his quick response to a reported stolen vehicle, while others questioned whether he had acted too quickly, possibly influenced by assumptions. He read every article and social media post carefully, taking notes for himself on how to improve his future work. This was a moment he could not ignore, and he knew he had to learn from it fully. Inside the police department, discussions were ongoing. The Internal Affairs Division had completed its review of the incident, and now the focus was on implementing changes to prevent similar mistakes. Officers attended meetings and workshops on verification procedures, bias awareness, and communication skills. Officer Daniels shared his own experience openly, speaking about the reliance on the system, the assumptions he had made, and the realization that even small errors could have large consequences. His honesty earned respect from his colleagues, and many officers appreciated the opportunity to learn from a real situation rather than a theoretical scenario. Meanwhile, Judge Thompson continued her daily work at the courthouse. She moved through her responsibilities with the same calm and confidence she had shown during the arrest. Her colleagues admired her professionalism, noting how she handled the situation without anger, embarrassment, or resentment. To them, it was a lesson in dignity and grace under pressure. Even as the story gained attention in the media, she remained focused on her duties, demonstrating that resilience and commitment to her role were stronger than any temporary public scrutiny. The media coverage grew steadily. Local news channels picked up the story, interviewing legal experts and community leaders. They discussed the importance of accuracy in police records, the challenges officers face in fast-paced situations, and the need to respect individuals' rights while enforcing the law. Public discussions often emphasized the human side of the incident, the emotional impact on both the judge and the officer. Many viewers expressed admiration for how both had handled the situation responsibly and professionally. Officer Daniels was aware of the growing public interest. He knew that while the incident was a personal and professional learning experience, it also served as a broader lesson for the community. Mistakes could happen anywhere, even among experienced professionals, but how one responded to those mistakes defined character. He spent time reflecting on his initial assumptions and realized that patience, verification, and open-mindedness were essential qualities for any officer. Judge Thompson, in the meantime, began to receive messages of support from colleagues, friends, and even members of the public. People admired the way she had remained calm during the arrest and had treated the situation with understanding. Many mentioned that the incident highlighted issues of systemic errors, racial assumptions, and the need for careful procedures, but they also noted her ability to turn a challenging experience into an opportunity for education and awareness. One afternoon, Judge Thompson decided to speak publicly about the incident. She gave a brief interview to a local news outlet, emphasizing the importance of professionalism, patience, and accountability. She spoke about her belief that mistakes could serve as lessons and that responding with dignity was crucial. "This situation could have been upsetting," she said calmly, but I chose to approach it with understanding and patience. Everyone involved acted in good faith, and it is our responsibility to learn from errors and improve systems for the future. Officer Daniels saw these messages too and felt a renewed sense of respect for Judge Thompson. Her response had been professional, compassionate, and educational, demonstrating the qualities that made her a respected member of the judiciary. Inside the police department, the leadership recognized the incident as an opportunity for meaningful change. Officers were encouraged to attend additional training sessions on verification procedures, careful observation, and implicit bias. Discussions included role-playing scenarios to help officers practice patience and thorough investigation. Officer Daniels actively participated, sharing his experiences and encouraging fellow officers to approach each situation with a balance of vigilance and understanding. Community leaders also weighed in on the story, organizing public forums to discuss trust between law enforcement and citizens. They invited speakers, including legal professionals and police officers, to explain the challenges faced by both sides. These forums aimed to educate the public on the importance of accurate record-keeping, respectful communication, and accountability. Officer Daniels attended one of these sessions, speaking honestly about his experience and emphasizing the importance of continuous learning. The incident also sparked conversations about racial assumptions and stereotypes, though carefully and respectfully. Many people recognize that assumptions can influence behavior, even unintentionally. Judge Thompson's identity as a Black woman added a layer of significance to the discussion, as it highlighted the need for awareness and fairness in every interaction. These conversations were conducted thoughtfully, focusing on solutions rather than blame, and emphasizing the need for empathy and professionalism in all areas of society. In the courthouse, Judge Thompson continued to demonstrate leadership and mentorship. She used the experience as an example when speaking with law students, interns, and junior lawyers. She emphasized that challenges and unexpected situations were part of professional life, and that responding with calm, respect, and integrity was essential. Her message resonated deeply, as many young professionals admired her ability to maintain dignity under pressure while using the experience as a teaching moment. Officer Daniels, meanwhile, spent his evenings reflecting on the lessons he had learned. He wrote detailed notes about the incident, analyzing his decisions and the thought processes behind them. He also considered how the media coverage, public discussion, and professional feedback could guide him in future interactions. For him, the experience became a turning point, a reminder that humility, careful observation, and respect for every individual were just as important as following procedure. As weeks passed, the story slowly settled into the public memory, though it remained a reference point for discussions about policing, professionalism, and accountability. Officer Daniels had become more cautious, more patient, and more reflective in his work. He treated each case with renewed care, verifying every detail before making decisions and striving to ensure that justice and respect went hand in hand. Judge Thompson, too, continued to serve her community with distinction. She remained focused on her judicial duties, mentoring young lawyers, and participating in public discussions on justice and fairness. The incident had reinforced her belief that professionalism, understanding, and patience were vital in all circumstances. It also reminded the public that mistakes, when handled responsibly, could be transformed into opportunities for learning and growth. The city itself seemed to respond positively to the lesson. Local schools invited speakers from the judiciary and law enforcement to discuss accountability and integrity. Community centers held workshops on conflict resolution, respect, and communication. The story of Officer Daniels and Judge Thompson became a real-life example that people reference when discussing empathy, professionalism, and human error. Even within the police department, the culture began to shift slightly. Officers became more aware of the impact of assumptions, the importance of verification, and the need to treat every person with respect. Discussions about mistakes and learning were no longer seen as embarrassing, but as opportunities for improvement. Officer Daniels' experience served as a guide, showing that acknowledging errors, taking responsibility, and learning from them was a sign of strength rather than weakness. In the end, what had begun as a routine morning patrol and an unexpected arrest had grown into a broader story about humanity, professionalism, and learning. Both Officer Daniels and Judge Thompson emerged from the experience with lessons that would guide them for years to come. Their actions and responses inspired conversations, education, and awareness throughout the city, reminding everyone that patience, integrity, and respect could transform challenges into meaningful growth. The incident would continue to be referenced for years, not as a moment of shame or embarrassment, but as an example of how individuals can respond to mistakes with dignity, humility, and professionalism. For Officer Daniels, it was a moment of personal growth and reflection. For Judge Thompson, it was an affirmation of the power of composure and integrity. And for the community, it became a story about understanding, learning, and the importance of giving people the benefit of the doubt while ensuring that systems and procedures are carefully maintained. The weeks after the arrest had settled into a rhythm for both Officer Daniels and Judge Carla Thompson, but the lessons from the incident continued to shape their daily lives. For Officer Daniels, every morning patrol was now approached with more thoughtfulness and care. He still remained vigilant, as any good officer should, but he had learned to balance vigilance with patience and understanding. The mistake he had made in arresting Judge Thompson had left a lasting impression. He knew that relying solely on systems and assumptions could lead to errors, and that careful observation, verification, and respectful communication were equally important. At the police station, changes had begun to take root. Officers were attending training sessions that focused not only on procedures and law enforcement skills, but also on soft skills like communication, empathy, and understanding implicit biases. Officer Daniels became a vocal participant in these workshops, sharing his personal experience openly. He described the sequence of events, how the system error had led to the arrest, and how assumptions had influenced his decisions. His colleagues listened attentively, appreciating his honesty and willingness to teach others through his experience. The leadership of the police department recognized the value of these lessons and implemented changes to prevent similar mistakes in the future. Verification procedures for stolen vehicle reports were tightened, and officers were instructed to double-check information from multiple sources before taking action. Sensitivity and bias awareness training became a regular part of professional development. These changes were welcomed by many, who saw the incident as an opportunity for growth and improvement rather than just a mistake to be forgotten. For Officer Daniels, these changes also represented a chance to reflect on his own growth. He began keeping a personal journal, documenting his experiences, lessons learned, and reflections on interactions with the public. He found that writing down his thoughts helped him process the events, learn from them, and ensure that similar errors would not occur in the future. He also spent time mentoring newer officers, emphasizing the importance of patience, careful observation, and respect in every situation. Meanwhile, Judge Thompson continued to focus on her work at the courthouse. Despite the public attention the incident had attracted, she remained composed and professional. She moved through her responsibilities with her usual grace, making decisions in the courtroom with fairness and integrity. Her colleagues admired the way she had turned a potentially stressful and humiliating situation into an opportunity for growth, not just for herself, but for others as well. She also began mentoring younger lawyers and interns, using her experience as a lesson in professionalism, resilience, and calm decision-making under pressure. The community, too, continued to learn from the incident. The story of the mistaken arrest became a reference point for discussions about trust, accountability, and fairness. Schools invited local law enforcement officers and legal professionals to speak about the importance of careful decision-making, empathy, and integrity. Workshops and community meetings emphasized the value of understanding one another, acknowledging mistakes, and learning from them. In this way, what had initially seemed like an embarrassing or awkward incident became a teaching tool for the wider public. Officer Daniels and Judge Thompson even participated together in a public forum organized by the city. The forum focused on the relationship between law enforcement and the community. Officer Daniels shared his perspective as an officer, explaining the importance of verification, procedure, and humility. Judge Thompson shared her perspective as a legal professional and a citizen, emphasizing the importance of patience, respect, and understanding when mistakes occur. Together, they presented a story of accountability, learning, and collaboration that was well received by everyone present. Their story became an example of how mistakes could be transformed into positive experiences. Officer Daniels' humility and willingness to learn, combined with Judge Thompson's grace and professionalism, inspired others in both the legal and law enforcement communities. It was a reminder that even challenging or uncomfortable situations could lead to growth, improvement, and stronger relationships between institutions and individuals. In the police department, Officer Daniels noticed a subtle shift in the culture. Officers became more careful, more aware, and more willing to discuss mistakes openly without fear of judgment. The story of the arrest was referenced in training sessions as a case study, not as a scandal, but as a learning opportunity. Officers were encouraged to reflect on their actions, consider the human impact of their decisions, and always act with fairness and professionalism. Officer Daniels felt proud that something positive had come from what could have been a simple error. For Judge Thompson, the incident reinforced her belief in the importance of resilience. She had been confronted with a situation that could have embarrassed her, damaged her reputation, or shaken her confidence. Instead, she chose to handle it calmly, with patience and understanding. Her response became an example to others, showing that dignity and professionalism could turn even the most difficult circumstances into lessons for personal and professional growth. As months passed, the incident faded somewhat from public attention, but its lessons remained. Officer Daniels continued to apply the principles he had learned in his daily work, carefully verifying information and treating each individual with respect. Judge Thompson continued to serve her community with distinction, mentoring the next generation of lawyers and sharing her experience as a story of resilience and professionalism. The partnership between learning from mistakes and demonstrating grace had created a ripple effect. Officers in the department spoke more openly about errors, discussed ways to improve, and supported one another in their professional development. Legal professionals, inspired by Judge Thompson's example, emphasized the importance of calm, measured responses in the face of unexpected challenges. Members of the community also reflected on the importance of understanding and empathy in everyday interactions. Officer Daniels often thought back to the day of the arrest, remembering the shock and embarrassment he had felt when he discovered Judge Thompson's identity. But he also remembered the lessons he had learned, the training improvements that followed, and the growth he had experienced as a professional and as a person. The incident had changed him in meaningful ways, teaching him the value of humility, patience, and thoughtful action. Judge Thompson, likewise, reflected on the experience with a sense of clarity. She realized that challenges were inevitable, but the way one responded defined character and professionalism. By maintaining composure, demonstrating understanding, and using the experience as a lesson for others, she had turned a moment of potential frustration into an opportunity for positive impact. In the city, the story became part of the ongoing dialogue about law, fairness, and accountability. Citizens, officers, and legal professionals alike referenced the incident when discussing best practices, human error, and the importance of learning from mistakes. The story served as a reminder that errors could be addressed with honesty, humility, and grace, creating opportunities for growth rather than conflict. Officer Daniels and Judge Thompson occasionally crossed paths in official settings, always exchanging polite greetings and respectful nods. Each encounter reinforced the mutual understanding and lessons that had emerged from the incident. They had both grown professionally and personally, and their example inspired those around them to approach mistakes with care, understanding, and responsibility. The final lesson of the incident was clear. Mistakes are inevitable, but accountability, humility, and a willingness to learn can transform even the most challenging situations into opportunities for growth. Officer Daniels learned the importance of patience and verification, while Judge Thompson demonstrated the power of composure and professionalism. Together, their story became a symbol of responsibility, respect, and learning, leaving a lasting impression on the community, the police department, and the legal system. In the end, what had started as a routine morning patrol and an unexpected arrest had grown into a story of reflection, improvement, and shared learning. The incident reminded everyone that while errors may occur, the response to those errors defined the character of individuals and institutions alike. Officer Daniels' dedication to learning and Judge Thompson's grace under pressure became guiding examples, showing that professionalism, understanding, and humility could turn mistakes into lasting lessons for a better future. And so, life continued in the city. Officer Daniels patrolled with renewed focus and care, ensuring that he applied every lesson learned. Judge Thompson continued her judicial work with calm and confidence, mentoring others and setting an example of integrity. The city had witnessed a unique story of human error, accountability, and personal growth, a story that reminded everyone of the importance of patience, understanding, and respect in every aspect of life.